Another one, another really tough game. Auburn loses to Purdue.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, man. Yes. Welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell, Dapprich joining us. I'm Zach Blackerby. This is Locked On Auburn, reacting to Auburn's 88-60 loss to Purdue. Not quite 30. It could have been whatever number Purdue wanted, though, down the stretch. And so when you couple this with the performance against Michigan and the performance against Arizona, when Auburn plays elite teams, this is kind of what we need to expect to happen, I guess. If you have any sort of a post presence, if you have any sort of way to attack the basket or consistently shoot from deep, Auburn's going to have trouble, whether it's leaving guys wide open around the perimeter or not having any sort of post presence defensively. This is what it looks like, Darrell.
Yeah, there's a specific blueprint for teams that are going to give Auburn a ton of problems. It's not a secret. It's not rocket science. First of all, elite teams, I understand getting beat by teams that are probably three of the teams that Auburn got beat, and you could throw in Houston, all Final Four caliber teams. Other than Houston, you just didn't show up. I mean, you got blasted. Now, this game, it looked like Auburn was going to keep it close. And then Purdue's bench. I mean, Purdue's bench, give them credit. The Harris kid that came off the bench and hit 4 threes. The size was a problem, like we thought. If you look statistically, they shot 56% from the field, which was a lot.
They had 5 players score double digits.
Yeah, and 56% around the from the field is really good, but they shot 46% from 3. Yeah. So they are the epitome. And then the Kaufman-Wren guy went off. I mean, he had 18 points and he was unstoppable on the block. Braden Smith is as advertised, only had 11 points, but he did whatever he wanted. He found guys wide open.
14 assists for Braden Smith.
Facilitated, distributed. Auburn, gets to the line, 16 times, only makes 11, 69%. So, I mean, they actually got the free throw line more than Purdue. The problem is Purdue didn't miss.
Yeah. The thing that's frustrating me most about this team is I think some of this is fixable. Some of it is this is what the roster is. And we can have discussions on why the roster is this way and all of that. And I really do think that's on Bruce, not on Steven. And there's a lot of people upset with Steven, and that's fine. And I don't think Steven is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I think some of the issues that are going to hinder Auburn's ceiling, because I think this team has a fairly low ceiling. And we knew that going into the season. I think it's a little bit lower probably than most of it's expected based off of play so far, because we liked the upside of Tahad and we liked the upside of Keyshawn Keyshawn Hall. And then, maybe another guy could step up. And tonight that was Kevin Overton. He was great offensively. But to me, it's just if you have any sort of post presence, Auburn's probably not going to win that basketball game.
Well, I 100% agree. I mean, that and there's no depth. Not only are you probably outmanned with the bigs you have, to make matters worse, you go too deep with your bigs. Because of Emeka, being shut down the rest of the year. It's Jovic, who's undersized as a big, and Murphy, who looks to be a little bit injury prone. That's it. That's what you have.
Yeah, just question how effective this is a guy who couldn't start at Mississippi State, right? And then he came over, and I think we brought him over to be a piece, and we're asking him to be the guy. And I don't think that's his fault. To be 100% clear, I think we are asking him to do something that is too much for what he was up to this point.
So what'll happen is, Auburn has beaten a couple of teams that I feel like will be in the NCAA tournament. They probably will go into conference play 9-4. When you look at the schedule they played, it's not all doom and gloom. They beat St. John's, North Carolina State, 2 tournament teams. Oregon, probably a bubble team. They get blasted by the elite teams. Houston, they should have won that game. You can't miss 12 free throws and say you shouldn't have won that game. They absolutely could have. So when you look at the totality of it, but what I'm doing is if you break it down and look at and peel back the onion a little bit, I think Auburn will be fine against teams that don't have massive front courts. I really do. I think, and there are some teams in the SEC that aren't good offensive rebounding teams, that aren't good around the rim, that are very fast, play transition, play tempo. The problem I see right now, Zach, that's very concerning to me, two things. Number one, Pettiford has not answered the bell. Sorry, I'm going to say it. I don't know what his NIL is. I understand that, but he has not played up to the expectations that Auburn expected or needs, or what his evaluation is from an NIL standpoint. To this point,
he's regressed. I mean, when he brings the ball down the floor, he's not the facilitator that I think we expected him to be, which is the most surprising part. I'm fine with you being cold every now and then, but when you are cold, the offense stagnates because you can't move the ball consistently. So it's part of that, and then also his shooting has just not been good.
The second part of this, and they may be connected somehow, or they could be, related, is that the offense looks like all they try to do is a lot of isolation basketball, a lot of one-on-one, a lot of freelancing, a lot of being stagnant, standing around, and again, a lot of dribble, one-on-one stuff. And that was my concern going into this year with a team that hasn't played together for a while. So Stephen Pearl is going to earn his stripes as a coach by having to get into SEC play and figure out what style, what lineup combinations, because I don't think Pettiford will play against Queens next Monday, nor should he give Magwood a lot of minutes because, with that ankle injury, I don't know if you risk him. But Pettiford, you can't go on the road to Purdue and hope to be the top 6 basketball team, and I think even though they're ranked 8th, I think they're top 6, and get 5 points. Now, to his credit, we've called him big game Tahad, and he has shown up in the big games. But let me ask you a question. Did that help Auburn win those games? No. He went off for 30 against Arizona, and they lost by 30. He went off against some other teams.
St. John's.
St. John's is the one where they won.
That's the only one that really fits that category.
So, I mean, if you're going to score 24, 25, you got to make it count. He's a good player. He's done a lot for Auburn, but to this point in the season, he has not lived up to his hype and has not played to his potential. Overton tonight, give him credit. When you and I did the little preview of this show, I was concerned Overton wasn't going to play, and I said Auburn's going to absolutely need Overton. And
Overton was great.
Go off. And
we lose by 40 if he's not in.
Can you believe that he was not only the leading scorer, he was the leading rebounder for Auburn tonight?
Man, but between that and then between like Tahad being, I assume he's still the leader in block shots. Like that just shows
where you're at with size. Yeah,
there's just no post presence whatsoever with this team.
Now, there's something that I want to address and do a real quick evaluation of. I heard Stephen Pearl with his own mouth say Auburn's going to look at getting a big at the mid-semester break, getting somebody that could play down low, a JUCO person. You can get a foreign player. Remember, Auburn's women's team last year got the girl from China that was a really good player.
Yeah, she was a shooter.
Yeah, and they got her. I wish they had her this year. They got her at the semester break. She didn't play until the winter semester. So I don't know the rules, but I think that they are able to do that based upon what Johnny Harris did last year, and then what Stephen Pearl said. If they can,
let's not forget when we added Austin Wiley. Wiley joined halfway through the year.
Yeah. So if you could, but I think he was on the team, just didn't become eligible until then for something that had to do with grades or something. I think he was already on the roster at the beginning of the year. He was just ineligible.
Who?
Wiley.
Wiley had to graduate high school.
Okay, so I thought I remembered it different. I thought he was on the roster, but just wasn't eligible until January for whatever reason. But if that's the case, that's very encouraging because Auburn could go find a 6'10" JUCO stud right now and overpay some NIL and get him on this roster because I think there's some available NIL that wasn't used or wasn't given. Go get it. Go find it and go give it to a 6'10" monster big that can come in and play and give you some minutes.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, if that guy's out there, why is he out there?
Why isn't he already on a roster? Yeah. Then
Those guys don't grow on trees.
Then maybe
right?
you look at the foreign route, right? You look at somebody that's
And
played.
then the question is, like, that's usually a kind of a somewhat lengthy process. That's not just like a quick thing where you sign your letter of intent and then you're good to go. There's processes, but we'll see. And maybe this has been in the process for a few weeks and it'll be done soon. But I think that would go a long way. The lack of a post president, it's just it's jarring at this point. So, all right, let's take a look at what's next for the Auburn Tigers and what we can expect in conference play, because that's right around the corner. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. We've all checked our account and been like, oh, there's less in there than we thought. And you look and you see like, oh, well, it's all these auto drafts with subscriptions, or, oh my goodness, maybe I spent too much at, whatever store stocking up on Christmas gifts, whatever it might be, Darrell. We've all been there, and Rocket Money can help you manage your finances as well as your subscriptions and all that. Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on previous spending, so it keeps you on track without overthinking it. And also, the app finds a good time to save each month, so you're consistent with your financial goals, which is great. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Live betting is the way to go, whether it's throughout the college football playoff, whether it's the remainder of the NFL season, or of course NBA, college basketball. They've got you covered all with our friends at FanDuel. You can download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Auburn loses to Purdue 88-60. Before we jump into what's next for Auburn and wrap up the show like we always do with the next 5 games, Steven is getting a lot of blame right now. And Steven, I don't think, has been perfect by any stretch, but I would say that I think some of the criticism he's getting is a little overblown. Darrell, would you agree with that or disagree?
I agree. I think he is doing the best with what the roster that he has, whether it's scheme, whether it's starting lineup. I mean, you look at who he runs out there. I agree with the 5 he starts. Freeman coming off the bench. So, Williams, Adams is supposed to give you a little more size, a little more post presence, which obviously Auburn is lacking. So he starts him. I don't know what else how he's managing minutes. Maybe Walker needs to play a little bit more, in a game like that where there were some wide open threes that Auburn missed. That would probably be the only criticism, is I'd have to give Simon Walker some more minutes. You got to try something. But other than that, I don't know what I would do any differently, other than if you're concerned about how he gets the team motivated or how he gets them up or how
yeah, and look, his style when he's during the games is very different than his father's. I don't think some Auburn fans like that. I don't mind it. Now, I do think leaving guys open consistently on the defensive side, like, that's a problem. That's something that needs to get fixed.
They guarded better with Bruce being head coach. I will say that. I think that if Bruce was the head coach, this record would not look much different. I do believe they would be in games a little bit closer than getting blown out.
Yeah, I don't think you lose. I don't think you're losing by 28, but
right.
I do think, you're within a 1-game difference if Bruce is there. Like, maybe you beat Houston, but I don't think if Bruce is the head coach that I don't think you beat Michigan. I don't think you beat Arizona. I don't think you win tonight if Bruce is the head coach, but I do think you're better defensively. And then, I do. We saw this with Bruce teams too, where there were stretches where like the offense just looked motionless and selfish. But like that falls on the head coach for sure too. So for folks blaming Steven for the roster, I don't think that's right or accurate. I do think blaming him for defensive tendencies or lack of offensive identity, I think that's for the folks who are just anti-Steven, which there's a lot. I think that's the argument you need to make. You need to not make it about the roster.
Well, elite coaches have the potential to elevate the level of play of the teams you're coaching, get the most out of them. And I think that's where Bruce has the advantage over Steven.
I agree with that.
Because of how long he's coached. I mean, he is a motivator. And I think when you play for somebody like that, you play at a higher level. You elevate your game. And I think that's why Auburn's been to 2 Final Fours under Bruce Pearl. Remember, the first Final Four team did not have very much of a post-president either. They had McLemore down there. And I know Wiley came off the bench, but they had shooters. And
right.
Chuma, who was 6'8", who was similar to Elijah Freeman as far as body. So, I mean, you know, it's about style and getting the most out of that style. But they guarded like demons, that team. They defended you. And this team, there are 2 players on this team that are supposed to be leaders that at times just look like they're not interested in playing any kind of defense.
Yeah, Tahad and Keyshawn.
Yep. And I mean, Pettiford will get some blocks, but I'm talking about off ball, fighting through screens, denying passes, moving your feet to close down, driving lanes, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a little old school in this. My coach was like this when I played, and people I've coached with. I think a great indicator of how good a defense you're playing is how many charges you take in a game. How you know what I'm saying? Are you stepping in? I mean, and I can remember KD taking charge after charge and laying on the floor and pounding his hand on and it just elevated.
Right.
I don't see that. I don't see that willingness to sell out, that willingness to guard like that, to pay that price, to be all in. And I think that is where the mentality is different than what I've seen when they were coached by Bruce Pearl.
Yeah. So I mean, not an ideal start, but also like, look, Auburn basketball was at a point where we wouldn't have these conversations, but like Arizona, Michigan, Purdue, Houston are all teams that could end up in the Final Four. Now, Granted, last year's team probably goes 3-1 in those. I mean, they've got a chance to. It's like they were elite. And that fall off is unfortunate. But I has Steven been perfect? No. Do I think there's other things at play that are involved in this? Yes. We'll see. We'll see how he responds. And he can respond over these next 5 games. So Auburn's final non-conference game is against Queens. That'll be at 9:00 next Monday. So we got a minute. Enjoy your Christmas break, Auburn basketball. So we've got Queens at Georgia to start the new year and to start conference play. Host Texas A&M, host Arkansas. You go to Missouri. So that's your next 5. And I mean, obviously you beat Queens. So then the question becomes like, you know, how do you start conference play? And I think you go 2-2 in those first 4. So I'm going to say 3-2. That's my.
I think it's going to be a microcosm of how Auburn's rest of their SEC season is going to go. I think you're going to see a loss and a win, a loss and a win. It's going to be very roller coaster, very inconsistent, and I can see Auburn going anywhere from 9-9 or 10-8 in SEC play, which would be enough to get them in the tournament. So based upon that and knowing they're going to beat Queens, I'm right there with you. I think.
Would you take 9-9 in conference play right now?
I would.
I would too.
I would, and that's why I think I can see them starting off their 4 SEC games splitting, going 2-2. Now, how that shakes out, I think the Georgia game is going to be a lot tougher, as I mentioned before, than it used to be.
Yeah, I think we lose that.
White's got them playing well. We'll find out. I think Georgia and Vanderbilt are similar to Ole Miss was a couple years ago. Remember when Ole Miss went into conference play undefeated, and then they ended up having, I think, a losing record in conference play. Let's see if Vandy and Georgia are for real, because I know one thing, they dang sure hadn't played near the schedule that Auburn or Alabama has.
Right. Yeah. And that's the part of me that, if you want to be the positive Auburn fan, and like most people would say Alabama's the best team right now, it's like, well, they got beat by Purdue. They got blown out by Arizona. Like, okay, well, we'll see. Now, I don't think Auburn can do that and attack the rim like those teams could, which is what gave Alabama trouble. Like, I don't think Auburn can recreate, what gave Alabama trouble, or whoever you want to say the top team in the SEC is. But as far as like, I don't believe in the transitive property in college sports, but if you want to, and a lot of people do, and you want to make that argument is there for you.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at where teams were, where those games were too. I mean, Purdue played Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Arizona played Alabama in Birmingham, where Auburn went to Indianapolis and went to Tucson. And that's a completely different thing. Now they got smoked by Michigan on a neutral court and lost to Houston in Birmingham. So I think the SEC is a little bit down this year. I really do. I think that there's, probably a couple good teams. But look at Florida. Your defending national champion ain't no world beater. Kentucky looks very, very beatable. They're having problems. Arkansas, I think, got beat by Houston tonight. So, your Georgias are better. Your Vanderbilts are better. That's the only difference, is it's probably more balanced, Don't know about Missouri, don't know about South Carolina. So there's a lot yet to be determined. I think if Auburn, remember, North Carolina State, Oregon, St. John's, teams that would be very much like the teams you're going to see in the SEC night in, night out, Auburn had some success with.
Yep. That's true.
They struggled against, and there's nobody in the conference, in my opinion, that's as good as Michigan, Purdue, or Arizona, period.
And I think there's a handful that'll be as good as Houston.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So,
we'll see. We'll see what that translates over, the next few months. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Well, you can follow me at DAP6410. I'll be with you a couple times next week, even during Christmas week. We'll have a couple of shows to do. I think I'll be jumping on the Barncast tomorrow night with you and Kyle. Other than that, for our normal basketball junkies that are on this show, thank you and Merry Christmas to you. We won't see you again until
Merry
after Christmas.
Thank y'all for being here. There's a lot of y'all in here, and so the fact that y'all are hanging out after watching that shows how diehard y'all are, and we appreciate it. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see y'all next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.